We learned about some new awesome sounding abilities in Assassin's Creed Valhalla that I want to go over in this video. We got new parkour info, is Thor's hammer in the game, and way more to discuss. So as always, a like on the video would be super appreciated. And let's go. There's still time to enter the May giveaway for a 2020 game of your choice, including Ghost of Tsushima, that we of course just got some new gameplay of. I will have a video about that very soon, by the way. Or you can also win Valhalla or any other 2020 game. Just follow the link in the pinned comment for a chance to win, and be sure you are a subscriber as well before you enter. Good luck. You can fake your own death in Assassin's Creed Valhalla thanks to the feign death ability, as noted by US Gamer. So likely when you're being chased by a ton of enemies, you can just drop down and pretend that you are defeated, and then maybe sneak up again and then take the enemies out that now turn their back on you. I think the closest we got to this in a Ubisoft game is maybe that Ghost Recon Prone camo, where you would blend in with the environment, and then enemies could also walk by, and you could like stand up, sneak behind them and take them out. Man, I remember this breakpoint reveal video that looked so cool and did not have like any of the RPG elements that ended up like kind of ruining the experience. But I digress. So we got the feign death ability, social stealth is of course back, so blending in with the crowd. And Ashraf also notes that we can use our bird Sunin, and this is how you pronounce it, by the way, to distract enemies and then maybe sneak past them. We of course had the harass ability already in the previous games. I never really used it for stealth though, and only really saw Senu, for example, help in combat. Maybe it's more fleshed out this time and that we can really use it for stealth purposes. And parkour of course goes hand in hand with that as well, and Ashraf actually talked more about stealth and parkour in a big interview with the Washington Post. And something he mentioned also in my interview is that there is a big misconception, namely that Vikings weren't stealthy at all, but this is not the case. If they could namely take out enemies without the risk of losing their man or ship, then they would prefer that. There is a big difference though, and that is that if the Vikings did use stealth, they would highlight it afterwards and not hide it. So I think we should totally expect a cutscene with Eivor coming back from a successful stealth mission and then yelling it to everyone in the settlement. We had rumors before the release about improvements to the parkour and how maybe we find a similar style of movement through the trees as in Black Flag and Tree, for example. This rumor came from Luke Stevens, and a link to his channel is in the video description. He had many other things right, but this doesn't seem to be correct, because Ashraf was asked about this, specifically about the tree part, and he kinda dodged the question and did not confirm it, while he did talk more about parkour in general. So I don't think we should expect this big jump from Origins and Odyssey, but what they did do is make specific locations in the world that are built with parkour in mind. So you could just stay on the ground and enter the big fort via the front gate, as we see in the teaser trailer, and use the battering ram, for example. But you should also be able to get higher up in many situations, something that will of course create stealth opportunities. And Ashraf notes that specific locations shine when you decide to climb them, and they will likely feature different elements that make getting to the top different than any other building, and also make these buildings more memorable. So I would not be surprised if he's talking about the viewpoints here, and that climbing up to unlock them will be different per building, something we also did not really see in Odyssey, for example. And Ashraf also confirmed that there will be navigation puzzles in Valhalla, so puzzles where you have to use the environment to get to the place you want. Something we also did not really see in the previous games. Let's stay on the stealth subject a little bit before we talk about a really cool warrior ability. So we already know that you can wear a hood whenever you want, but now we learned that this is something you do in game. So we don't have to go to the gear menu first to switch it on and off. And that's actually nice, because wearing a hood will make you harder to spot. So being able to likely use a button combination will be very nice, so they can maybe do a double assassinate. Ashraf was asked about this, and while he did not confirm it, he did say that there are skills to gain, that Eivor has a hidden blade, and there are skills that can help you in your assassination capacities. But we're not going into details just yet. By the way, Ashraf also said that Eivor will learn stealth abilities from the hidden ones that give him the hidden blade early in the game. So I think there will be some sort of story moments that unlock new assassin skills that we could not do before. And maybe the double assassinate is one of them. Like, I don't see Eivor suddenly wear 2 hidden blades, although that would be cool. A rush assassination, or what we saw in Origins, where you assassinate the targets and then throw their weapon to another enemy, could be possible. Or maybe with another weapon and the hidden blade we can take out 2 enemies at the same time. Dual wielding is of course a big thing in Valhalla, and we also learned an awesome new skill for the more warrior playstyle. We already saw a 2-handed weapon here in this awesome picture with Eivor and his raiding party looking over the hills of England. But yeah, there are 2-handed weapons that require both hands. And I think that in this case it also means that we cannot use a shield. While in Origins, 2-handed axes and heavy blunt weapons, for example, still gave the shield option. While in Valhalla, the shield will be in the same slot as a melee weapon from the sounds of it. So that's why I don't think we can have a 2-handed weapon and a shield. But we now learned about a cool skill that will let you carry these 2-handed weapons in one hand, and then you can dual wield 2 2-handed weapons. How awesome is that? And that's very likely going to be super powerful, and I do think that this then also means that you can go back to that shield and the 2-handed weapon loadout. We now also got confirmation that the gear system in Valhalla will be similar to Odyssey, so we have 5 different pieces, one of which is the hood, so then the rest will likely be a chest, gloves, waist and boots. So all the items that we see here are separate pieces, and many people actually reached out, just like Seth Benton, via the input@jaraptor.com email address, just like you can if you got some cool finds, saying that the weapon that Eivor is using here is likely Thor's hammer. Like, it looks very, very similar. So I would not be surprised if that was the case. I mean, we had many weapons from the gods in Odyssey as well, like Poseidon's trident, for example, that Poseidon had multiple copies of, as became clear in the Atlantis DLC. No, but that's awesome that we can likely search for more weapons from these gods. Fingers crossed for an Anubis style outfit. That was still one of the coolest gear items in Origins for sure. And talking about Origins, I want to talk about a specific enemy in that game, because someone sent me this, but I sadly cannot find who it was, so poke me again and I will shout you out in the next video. In Origins, we namely had 2 boss fights against Lucius Septimius, who has a bear hide, a cool cape, but more importantly is dual wielding a flail and a chained blade. And I can totally see them reusing assets and animations from Origins and putting them in Valhalla. Something we've seen them do many times before, and I would be shocked if no weapon assets from Odyssey or Origins would be in Valhalla. So maybe this fight that we have against this boss already gives us an idea of what the flail weapon in Valhalla will be like. And maybe this chained blade will be in Valhalla too. It seems like swinging the flail weapon around deals some nice damage to all surrounding enemies. And maybe when you dual wield 2 flail weapons, we actually increase our range and hit more enemies while swinging both weapons around at the same time. Ashraf already noted how some weapons have synergies with one another, so this could totally be one of those awesome combinations. He also once again talked about the enemies and how there's a ton of variety, and we already looked at this picture before in a previous video, where we see the spear-wielding Saxon soldier using the shield of the other enemy to do a nice aerial attack. Well, Ashraf now confirmed that the enemies can use the environment to their advantage as well, just like tools and so-called ingredients that they carry on them. So I would not be surprised if the same enemy could still fight different depending on the tools or the ingredients that they carry with them at that time. But yeah, of course, if the fight isn't in our favor, we want to use our mount to get away, and we already learned about the wolf mount that is available in the Ultimate Edition of the game, hopefully also by just playing the main game. We don't know that yet, but Ashraf now noted that we should expect more mounts apart from horses. So likely wolves, horses, and maybe something else. And the unicorn doesn't count, although I'm sure it will be back in Valhalla again as well. And it seems like we can upgrade our riding skill to be able to ride maybe faster mounts. We now namely learned in an interview with HLN.be that we can use the stable in our settlement to increase our riding skill. would be awesome, because previously all the mounts had the same speed. So more depth for that system would be more than welcome. And I want to thank Jelle and Jeroen for sharing this Dutch interview with me. Subscribe if you are new for everything on Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I said it in my previous video, but almost 80% of the people that watch are not subscribed yet. And it would really help me out, and it's also the best way